We have seen, obviously, an explosion in interest over the last 6 to 9 months in generative AI in particular, but we are going to see a lot of different aspects of that continuing to grow. And obviously, AI is both very dependent on data and has really spectacular capacities to handle data, and it changes the stakes for some of the issues that really lie at the core of what crypto is about and why people care about it, or at least, some ideas that everybody in crypto is very concerned with. My first question is, we're going to try and keep things a bit open, but this one is primarily for Edward. We do, and we have now for years, unfortunately, lived in a reality where mass surveillance and data gathering are omnipresent, practically, whether it's government or private. And I would like to hear your, I think, frankly ominous take on what the increasing capacity of artificial intelligence means for those huge data troves that already exist and are constantly growing, data about what all of us do on a day-to-day basis in our private lives that are in the hands of corporations and governments. What does AI mean for all of that surveillance?
Yeah, I think in order to understand where we are or where we're headed, we have to understand where we've been. So, as was mentioned, it's about 10 years ago that I wrote a little email that started like this. It said, every border you cross, every purchase you make, every call you dial, every cell phone tower you pass, friend you keep, article you write, site you visit, subject line you type, and packet that you route is in the hands of a system whose reach is unlimited and whose safeguards are not. The journalist that I wrote that to went on with a team of others, that was Laura Poitras, to break headlines on front pages around the world in basically every language that revealed a criminal conspiracy between major intelligence agencies, the Anglophone world, to deliver upon us this new secret reality, which was everything that they could reach on everyone, everywhere, was being ingested into systems without any regard to whether or not you were actually suspected of having done anything wrong. It was simply done as a matter of course because it was possible, because it was cheap, because it was easy. And I want to underline the criminal part of that conspiracy because that's not just rhetoric. Courts in the United States, the United Kingdom, and elsewhere have all ruled that was a violation of the law, a violation even of basic human rights, meaning specifically that even as to the most noble of intentions, that practice was not something that was within the legitimate authority of any state to do at all. But the important thing from that is that they didn't stop. And this brings us to today. They're doing it even more now. They changed their laws to try to shake themselves loose from having answered the courts. And the question that we need to consider when looking to the future is, if government is the great teacher of the people, as has been said, what lesson did the rest of the world, particularly corporations, draw from that impunity for the law breaking, and the policy assumption that has been projected to everyone that this is something that's necessary and legitimate to do? Not only are they going to do it regardless of what courts say, they're going to do it even more. Well, 10 years is a long time in technology. If it were all being ingested into a system, and the reality back then was that it would end up on the desk of a person like me who had a front end called X-key score, that was just a code name for it, which was a kind of cool for size. I and many others have manually go into this distributed, federated query system, as it's called, because the data is so vast and it's in so many places, you can't move it from this data center over there back to the NSA without everyone realizing what's happening. So what we do is we send what's small, the query, what you're looking for, to all the tablets around the world, basically. And then they process it for you against all this, and then they send back just the results. And this is where we see decentralization being used for sort of evil rather than good. It's a centralized system. It's a decentralized kind of query. Now, they were trying to automate this in the crudest of ways, just They had their own sort of almost bash type system where they would go, all right, anything that matches this grep state, try to pull off the wire. What if we didn't need to do queries? We didn't have to move the shell game around. What if the data centers answered the questions for us? What if they took out the constraint, which was how many people like me could they find and clear and get to keep the secret? It was done, everyone, automatically, algorithmically, by machines that would never betray them, right? Well, the secret would have been kept forever. And that's where we're headed. We're seeing more power concentrated into fewer hands. And we're seeing companies, corporations, and other states that didn't have this technology 10 years ago, but now they do, go, well, why don't we do this too? They can't complain too loudly if they're doing it more than anyone, right? And so now we see Amazon, Facebook, everybody, Microsoft, your insurance agency, hospital, all looking at trying to adopt these same capabilities. And I think the question is, as it moves from ads onto other things, most people cue onto the things that are photogenic, that you can immediately sort of caress and grasp and visualize, which are pictures, facial recognition. You think about security cameras. You think about license plate readers, and that's true. It's there. A driver's license database is access to them is sold by many states, whether it's to researchers and academics, whether it's to private companies. Your passport is shifted through the wire, processed by these third-party companies to get a visa. All of those pictures on your social media. The idea here is that the face is presumed to be a universally unique identifier. And there is nothing more that computers love, programmers love, and people who run large databases and collect data sets love, than being able to uniquely identify actors within a set. That's your phone number, right? That's your email address. No one else has these. They belong to you. Usernames are not universally unique across the web, but they are on a service. They are on a platform. And I think the thing that you think about the implications that we haven't hit but are about to hit hard is we need to move away from this because when the machines start thinking for the people and they're reasoning probabilistically the same way that I reason probabilistically, right? But there is some kind of accountability, or at least we hope there's some kind of accountability. It's not true, but the system depends on the idea that there's accountability. What happens when the machine starts making mistakes?
And what happens when the machine starts making mistakes? The accountability question is key, particularly because of certain features of the nature of this technology, which is that when you rely on vast data centers and a ton of processing to create the models, that has economic sort of implications for centralization. Ben, can you talk us through, for people who might not be familiar with just how AI works, can you just talk us through why corporations, big corporations like Google, like Meta now, and to a perhaps lesser extent, governments, have an advantage in building AI models and then consequently are more likely to wind up in control of them long term?
Yeah, so the AI field is actually a fairly big umbrella. I've been doing AI since the 1980s. The field was named in the late 50s. It's really been around since 1940s perhaps, when the first neural nets were created. And there's a lot of different approaches to AI out there. Certain approaches have been prioritized by big tech companies for a combination of reasons, right? So what we're seeing now, we're seeing a flourishing of certain types of neural net architectures. I mean, ChatGPT has gotten all the press, but it's been going on for a number of years. We had face recognition starting out in 2014, 15 with AlexNet and other software. This flourishing of neural net AI, it's amazing. It's created a lot of highly valuable products. It's going to obsolete whole industries, create other industries. One aspect of this particular type of AI is it's very highly data intensive. And it's no coincidence that the AI field has been pushed in a direction of highly data intensive AI algorithms by companies that are sitting on incomparably large amounts of data, right? So there's other kinds of AI, such as logical reasoning systems or evolutionary learning, which also have a long history, also are interesting, also could be accelerated by modern compute hardware, but don't need that much data. These are getting quite short shrift in the corporate AI R&D world by no great mystery, because big companies don't have such an intrinsic advantage. There's still an advantage of needing more processing, but with current neural net models, big companies have two advantages. They got loads of money for processing, and they've got all this data, so they've got a huge advantage over everybody else. Now, governments, in theory, have this advantage also, but due to being less agile and advanced technology, have not leveraged it as well as big tech companies, right? I mean, government agencies, yeah, they're accumulating all sorts of data. I mean, I lived in DC from 2001 to 2010 and did, among many other things, I did bits and pieces of AI consulting for various three-letter agencies in Washington, and it was clear there's a lot of data there. It was also clear they didn't have nearly as intelligent ways